Hi, my name is Julissa Bastidas, and I will be doing my presentation on Whitley versus Philip Morris Inc. So, the significance of this case in relation to the legal environment of business. This case is an example of product liability and fraud in tort law. It basically shows how pretrial procedures and trial strategies affect legal outcomes in business law. This case highlights how a procedural waiver can limit the defense available to appeal or on appeal. Definitions of the legal concepts relevant to this case, topic, or article. So, fraud. Intentional misrepresentation of facts with the intent to deceive and induce another party to act, which causes them harm or loss. Number two, product liability. So, a manufacturer's legal responsibility for producing or selling a product that causes harm. And procedural waiver, which is losing the right to raise an issue on appeal because it wasn't addressed at trial. Um, Leonard Whitley, the plaintiff and respondent, versus Philip Morris Inc. So the complaint was that Leslie and Leonard Whitley filed a complaint and requested a jury trial against Philip Morris Inc. and R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company on April 7th of 2004. And there were claims of fraud and the conspiracy to misrepresent and conceal facts. So the parties were the plaintiff was Leslie Whitley, who was an individual smoker, and Leonard Whitley, who was the husband of Leslie. And then on the other side were the defendants, who were Philip Morris, which was of Philip Morris Inc., and R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company. So, case information, some important facts and background. This is a fraud and product liability case where plaintiffs Leslie and Leonard Whitley sued tobacco companies, including Philip Morris Inc., due to the fact that they were concealing the health risks of smoking. And the defendants misled consumers for decades by marketing cigarettes as safe and downplaying the risks, despite internal knowledge that cigarettes were highly addictive and deadly as well. Tobacco companies conducted deceptive advertising campaigns targeting young people and withheld very critical research that showed a lot of the dangers that came with smoking. Whitley began smoking at age 13, became addicted, and developed lung cancer and brain tumors after years of smoking. She claimed the tobacco company's fraudulent conduct and concealment of health risks caused her harm, and she relied on their misleading advertising to make decisions about smoking. So, jurisdiction. The Superior Court of California has jurisdiction over the defendants regarding Civil Code Section 1714.45 and Civil Code Section 1714.45 in 1989 as well. The venues, this case was tried in the Superior Court of San Francisco County, and then it was later appealed to the Court of Appeals in the First District, Division 2 of California. So the Whitley's plaintiffs both resided in California, and then Philip Morris Inc., the defendant, had its headquarters in Virginia. So Leslie Whitley, born in 1959, began smoking at age 13 in 1972 and was influenced by peer pressure, a desire to fit in, and many advertisements that were seen on TV. As a teenager, Whitley did not believe cigarettes could cause serious disease, cancer, or death. Her parents and teachers never warned her about the health risks of smoking. Whitley did not recall seeing a cigarette package warning until she became pregnant in 1988, and she basically just trusted the tobacco company's denials that smoking caused cancer. Whitley smoked Marlboro and Camel cigarettes, starting typically with a half pack a day in high school, and then over time that increased significantly. And then she became highly addicted, smoked throughout the day, even during pregnancies, and made several unsuccessful attempts to quit. Her addiction was confirmed by doctors. Um, Then Whitley continued smoking until February of 1998 when she was diagnosed with lung cancer in June 1998. Then she died at age 40 on July 3rd of 2000. By the mid 1950s, medical experts and the tobacco industry knew smoking caused lung cancer. The tobacco industry created the Tobacco Industry Research Committee in 1954 to manage public relations, not to conduct genuine research. And then defendants made false public statements denying the health risks of smoking, promised to research and disclose the truth, but never intended to actually do so. Defendants engaged in a disinformation campaign, destroyed evidence, and manipulated nicotine levels to increase addiction. The industry targeted adolescents with advertising, knowing that those who started smoking before 18 were more likely to become lifelong smokers. And despite public claims, defendants did not make genuine efforts to produce safer cigarettes. The tobacco industry had immunity under California law from 1988 to 1998, but this was repealed on January 1st of 1998. This ultimately led to the Whitleys filing a civil lawsuit against the tobacco company on April 7th of 2004. So, analysis of the significant legal facts in relationship to the issues involved in the case. So, the legal issues of fraud and concealment of risk. Some legal facts were that the tobacco in companies knew smoking caused cancer by the 1950s, but they still were denying it publicly. And the defendants engaged in fraudulent concealment and misleading advertisement. The failure to warn. So Whitley didn't see package warnings until 1988 and believed that the tobacco's industry's denials and then public warnings were insufficient because the defendants deliberately misrepresented the risks. Whitley's knowledge as a defense, the defendants argued Whitley ignored health warnings but did not raise this at trial. The court ruled defendants waived this argument by excluding it during trial. They could not argue it later. Procedural waiver, defendants blocked evidence about Whitley's personal responsibility for her injuries, and then by waiving defenses at trial, the defendants lost the right to argue contributory negligence on appeal. And then targeting minors and addiction, they specifically targeted young people and manipulated these nicotine levels to increase addiction amongst them. And this conduct reinforced liability for fraud and product liability. So the Court of Appeals reversed the judgment. As the outcome and remanded the case for further proceedings. The appellate court ruled that the trial court erred by not instructing the jury about the 10-year statutory immunity period from 1988 to 1998, and this error was prejudicial. Then the court found that the fraud claim was not preempted by federal law, and there was substantial evidence that Whitley reasonably relied on tobacco companies' misrepresentations. So the negligent design verdict was not supported by sufficient evidence, and that cigarette design was a substantial factor in causing Whitley's lung cancer. So eventually, a new trial was ordered on the fraud-related causes of the action, and judgment entered in favor of the defendants on the negligent design cause of action. So, some key learnings were that maintaining legal arguments, the defendants must present any relevant defenses during the trial because refusing to do so may prevent them from appealing a decision, which is very important. And liability for fraud, despite public warnings. If businesses intentionally mislead customers, they may still be held accountable for fraud, even in the face of public health warnings. Jury instructions are very crucial because inaccurate or unclear jury instructions, such as those regarding the statutory immunity period, may lead to appeal or reversals. Product liability complexity, in addition to proving that a product is unsafe in general, claims for careless product design must provide convincing proof that the design alone caused a significant amount of injury. And then challenges for consumer protection. So the case emphasizes how hard it is for individuals to take on big businesses and how crucial regulation, openness, and well-informed decision making are to the protection of these consumers. And these are my references, and that is all.